Frankly, a really surprising report came out from NFL Network today talking about Kirk Cousins potentially returning for 2025. So we're going to take a look at that, and we're also going to react to Raheem Morris's exit press conference today as he talked about the 2024 season as a whole. I had some takeaways from it I want to share with you guys. But first, I thought you might be interested in some of the analytics and the growth of this channel this past season because sure, 8-9 is not what we were striving for, but that's kind of up to the team. But what we can control is the growth of this channel. And I want to say thank you to all 7,812 of you that subscribed during the 2024 season. That is more than double than what we did the previous year. So it's awesome to see the growth from 2022 to 2024. But let's talk about Kirk Cousins and his future with the Falcons because I, for one, kind of went into today thinking, well, we saw Kirk Cousins wear a Falcons uniform for the very last time on the sideline against the Panthers. Raheem Morris in his press conference today said, Kirk left today, gave me a hug, and said he'd talk to me soon. We will make some of those decisions with him. You just never know. That's the process we will go through now. I never expect a coach to come out and really say a whole lot. One, if they say too much, they kind of lose some leverage if they're in, negotiations later on. If they're like, yeah, we fully expect to release Kirk Cousins, well, now you made it a little bit difficult for yourself to trade him if you have admitted to the world we plan on moving on from him anyway. But this is not the surprising part to me. It's what Cameron Wolfe from NFL Network had to say when talking to people in and around the Falcons, saying, from what I understand, the Falcons are not just going to release him. They will listen to teams in regards to trade offers, but they want to get something back from that deal. And they are willing to bring him back as a backup if it doesn't happen that way. I've got a tough time believing that Kirk Cousins is going to come back and be the backup for Michael Penix. If he just wants to live in Atlanta, his wife's from there, their family is young, and they just moved there, and he is okay with being a backup as long as he does not have to pack up and move again, then I guess so. But that to me is the only motivating factor as to why he would stay with the Atlanta Falcons after signing a 4-year deal, being very upfront and honest of, hey, I want to end my career here, and then the team drafts his replacement 6 weeks later. I don't think he's in the business of doing the Falcons any favors. And staying on the team, well, I don't think it's a big favor to the Falcons. It's a little bit easier than some other paths. Now, he does have a no-trade clause, so if he does not want to get dealt anywhere, he ain't getting dealt anywhere. Now, when it comes to the contract side of things, let's get into the nitty-gritty. If Atlanta just outright releases him before June 1st, which he does have $10 million in guarantees coming 5 days after the start of the new league year. So my guess is Arthur Blank is going to be pretty antsy to release him before 10 million G's go out the door for a guy who's going to be the backup. There's a $65 million dead cap hit. That's a big number right there. Now, if you're wondering what the trade side of things, if you got someone on board to trade for Kirk Cousins and Kirk Cousins to sign off on the trade, it is a better route for Atlanta, but those are two big ifs. You got to find a buyer, and you got to find a buyer that Kirk Cousins is okay getting dealt to. And even if he's okay going to play there, he may just say, no, I don't want to get traded. You have to release me. I don't want you getting anything from my next team, right? That's just going to make it a little bit more difficult for them to improve the roster. So release me, and I'll go sign there for the vet minimum. And then all of a sudden, that $1.5 million vet minimum is subtracted from the $27.5 million guaranteed. And the Falcons are on the hook for $25 or $26 million. And his new team is paying next to nothing. It's exactly what Russell Wilson did after the Broncos dumped him and the Steelers signed him. So what's the most likely path for the Falcons here? I would say it is a post-June 1 designation release. Each team gets to do 2 players this way where they can take the dead money and split it over 2 upcoming seasons. So if the Falcons make him a post-June 1 release, the dead cap hit for 2025 is $40 million. That's a big number, but you can work with $40 million in dead money. Think about it this way. The Falcons had something similar to that with Matt Ryan. Obviously, the product on the field the next year wasn't great, but it's not like the death penalty, okay? 2026, $25 million dead cap hit. Again, the salary cap goes up every single year, so don't look at these numbers right here and be terrified. You can manage just fine and put together a competitive roster. But once again, I circle back to, we're talking about trying to find a trade partner. Good luck. Look at the last 4 games up until his final game against the Raiders when he finally threw a touchdown pass. But still, that 4-game losing streak, that's what's going to be at the front of everyone's minds when talking about Kirk Cousins. And I am struggling to think of a team that wants to trade for this, right? Acquire for nothing or next to nothing on the open market. Okay, I can think of some teams that would be interested in that. But teams giving up draft capital? I mean, sure, it would be next to nothing. I get that for sure. You essentially would be trading a bag of footballs to the Falcons. You'd be kind of doing them a favor for getting him off their contracts or getting that contract off their books. But I just really struggle with wrapping my head around the Falcons finding a trade partner, Kirk Cousins signing off on it. There's a lot of things that have to have, I's dotted and T's crossed that I don't see happening. So my prediction is, which we'll look at closer in a moment, he is going to get released. And I'll explain why. But first, a quick shout out to our friends over at Factor. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They are dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel up and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor's keto meals. Based on a randomized control clinical trial with Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. I put all that information for you guys in the comments, but first things first, eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off and use code FalconsChat50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FalconsChat50off at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factor Meals, a big supporter of ours here. Go support them as well if you are looking to up your palate. So, like I was saying, my prediction is I think it's going to be a post-June 1 release. $10 million becomes guaranteed third or fourth day after the new league year begins. I just don't see a world where the Falcons are like, yeah, we're going to hold on to Kirk and see if we can find a trade. And if not, we just darn $10 million. Darn $10 million. No, they're not going to do that. So unless Kirk is like, hey, please don't release me because I want to be a backup. And they go, well, you'd be a great backup and be a great mentor for Michael Penix. Then, okay, I guess that could be a world where this happens. But is Kirk going to have that mindset? I struggle to think so. Maybe. That could be the ultimate wrench in this. If Kirk kind of comes into this with a whole new mindset of, hey, let's just accept the facts here. And that is, I'm no longer an above-average quality starting quarterback. No one's going to really make me a great offer in free agency, or I'm not going to find a great destination. So instead of finding an apartment to live out of for half the year and picking up a couple of suitcases, I'll stay with Atlanta. I'm planting roots down here with my family, and I will just be a backup, and I will accept that that is now my role in the National Football League. Maybe he reaches that conclusion. In my experience, most athletes struggle with reaching that conclusion. They are the most competitive people in the world. Not often do you see former starters just go, yeah, you're right. I stink now. I'll be a backup. Thank you. Doesn't seem likely to me. Now, when it comes to that post-June 1 designation release, like I said, similar thing happened with Russell Wilson last year, but on a larger scale. His contract was much bigger than Kirk Cousins. And what the Broncos did was they spread out the cap hits over 2 years. This past season, 2024, $53 million dead cap hit. In total, Denver had a little under $100 million of cap space in dead money, going to players who are not on the roster. This upcoming season, 2025, it'll be $32 million. And look what happened to the 2024 Broncos. They went 10-7 and are in the playoffs. So if Atlanta moves on from Kirk Cousins, it's a $40 million dead cap hit for 2025. Broncos just went 10-7 with a $13 million larger dead cap hit from their quarterback this season. This is not a we are screwed, SOL, ship's going down, we've got $40 million going to Kirk Cousins on a different team. you have to be a little bit smarter and work a little bit harder. You got to find some good gems in the draft. You got to find some bargains in free agency. But that's the job of the GM. So, pull up your bootstraps and tighten your belt and get to work, because you're not going to have a ton of flexibility, but you're not going to be screwed over. Now, a couple of notes I want to relay from Raheem Morris's press conference as we switch gears here. Raheem Morris talking about today saying, quote, "This was 100% an awful day. I hate it. Disappointing. But when you look at those guys on the offensive side of the ball, it does create a sense of urgency and excitement for you." I found it just a little bit interesting that he just points out the offense, doesn't really mention the defense, but he's not wrong. I mean, there are a lot of fun players on the offensive side of the football because they have used a lot of premium draft picks on the offensive side of the football. 8th overall pick, Michael Penix, who I was very encouraged by in his 3 starts. Drake London finally has that true breakout season that we all knew he was capable of. He just needed a halfway decent quarterback. He finishes with 100 grabs, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, which I'm thinking about before the season started, and I was giving out like season-long predictions. That is almost to a T what I predicted for Drake London. Bijan Robinson, I had high expectations for this year, and he blew them out of the water. 1,400 yards on the ground, 431 additional ones tacked on through the air, and 15 touchdowns. He was a touchdown magnet the last couple of weeks. 6 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks of the season. Bijan, I think, is going to enter 2025 as the second best running back in the National Football League, right? It'll be Saquon Barkley number 1, Bijan 2. Am I forgetting someone from the AFC? I don't even care if I am. I think Bijan is that talented, and he's getting better and better as the games went on, the season went along, and I am excited to see what he brings to the table in 2025. More from Raheem Morris. This one definitely jumped out to me. Falcons head coach Raheem Morris was asked whether defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake will be retained in 2025. Quote, "We got to evaluate all of our coaches. We got to evaluate all of our players. That's the process that happens now. There will never be anything that's the same in the National Football League." A simple yes would have worked. He didn't say yes, right? Because I think they are going to do their due diligence. They are going to spend the next 24, 48 hours having some high-level internal conversations. Rich McKay, Terry Fontenot, Arthur Blank, and Raheem Morris, and some combination of that. And my guess is they are going to come out of those conversations and say, yep, we are going to have to make a change at the defensive coordinator position. My prediction is Jimmy Lake is not going to be the DC for the Atlanta Falcons in 2025. And that prediction is mostly rooted in my wishful thinking. But I would not put it past a first-year head coach to stay a little too loyal to the buddies he just hired to be his coordinators. That's one of the coolest parts about being an NFL head coach, is you get to be an Adam Sandler movie where you get to bring all your friends to Hawaii, even if they're not that good of actors. I wonder if Raheem Morris is going to latch on to his guys for a season too long because he doesn't want to fire his friends. And listen, I don't blame him for that. I would not be good at firing my friends, right? That's why they say you don't open a restaurant with your friend. But we've seen a couple of guys across the league outside just being head coaches. The Seahawks fired their OC today. That was Mike McDonald's first-year head coach, so he made that tough decision. I think we saw enough this year to believe that there is someone else who could do a better job with the Falcons defense. Major credit to Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake for turning that pass rush around coming out of the bye. I mean, unfortunately, it completely disappeared in the Panthers game, but they had that 5-week stretch of 21 sacks, number 1 in the National Football League. And that's an incredible turnaround for them. We're using the same personnel, so I tip my cap to them. But we can't forget about the other 12 weeks of the season where Atlanta had 10 sacks in the first 11 games. I think that last stretch there might be just too little too late, or just not even too little, but, too late ultimately, because there were a lot of sacks, and the defense had some good plays. They had some good games and whatnot, but I think when looking at the entire season in totality, we've got to find someone who can do a better job. Because I also wonder if Raheem Morris is like, all right, Jimmy, I'm taking over the defense coming out of the bye because clearly this ain't working. And if that's the case, then if Raheem Morris was the mastermind behind the pass rush coming alive, then we definitely need a new defensive coordinator. So let me know if you want a change at the DC position. Do you want a new play caller on defense? Give me a yes or give me a no down in the comment section.